In this example, we're told that Ralph Chase plans to sell a piece of property for $145,000. He wants the money to be paid off in two ways, a short-term note that's 10% interest and a long-term note that's 9% interest. We're asked to find the amount of each note if the total annual interest paid is $13,900. So what we want to remember is that for simple interest, interest is equal to principal, the amount that we're putting in, times rate, our percentage rate written as a decimal, times time, and our time is in years. So what we're told is that we have $145,000 that we are paying for this property. So he wants some of the money, he wants it paid in two ways. Some of the money is going to go in a short-term note. So for that amount of money, we're going to call that X. So X is going to equal the amount in the short-term note. And that's for a 10% interest. And then there was a long-term note that was 9% interest. So if X dollars is how much was in the short-term note, then what's left over from that $145,000 would be in the long-term note. For instance, if $10,000 was in the short-term note, then there would be $135,000 left that could be placed in the long-term note. So since we only know that it's X, what we'll say is $145,000 minus X is going to be the amount in the long-term note. And that's going to be at 9% interest. So we're told that the total annual interest paid is $13,900. This word total here means that we're going to be adding up our interest, the interest that we paid in the 10% interest, and then the interest in the long-term note that was 9% to get our total interest. Remembering that interest is principal times rate times time. So what we'll do is we'll set up our equation. So we'll say that we want to consider how much interest was paid in the 10% short-term note. So to do that, we will look at principal as how much we put in. We said that was X dollars times the percentage rate written as a decimal. So that was 10%. So we write it as 0.10 times our time. And if you look back up at our problem, it said that it was the annual interest paid, so that means 1 year. Then it said the total, so that's what tells us we should be adding. So plus, consider the second note that we're paying on. So the principal, how much we are paying on that note is $145,000 minus X. Times the rate, and that was 0.09, times the time is 1 year. And then we'll set this equation equal to what they told us up here was the total interest paid. So we're going to say that this is equal to $13,900. Now we'll solve this equation for X. So we have 0.1x plus, we're going to distribute, this is 0.09 times 1, so we're going to distribute that 0.09. This would simplify to just 0.09. Distribute this times 145,000. That's going to give us 13,050. Then we distribute it also to this minus X, so that gives us minus 0.09x is equal to 13,900. Now when we combine like terms, we'll combine this X with this X. So again, this one here with this one here. So 0.1x minus 0.09x gives us 0.01x plus 13,050 is equal to 13,900. Subtract 13,050 from each side. So that gives us 0.01x is equal to, we end up with 850, and then divide both sides by 0.01. So x is equal to $85,000. Now if we go back up to our key here, x represented the amount in the short-term note of 10% interest. So if we're given our answer, then we would say that $85,000 was the amount that was paid in the short-term note. Then to find the amount paid in the long-term note, again, we'll look back up at our key here. And the amount that was paid for the long-term note is $145,000 minus x. So to find that number, we'll say $145,000 minus x. That's $145,000 minus $85,000. So that leaves us with $60,000. So we would say that $60,000 is the amount paid in the long-term note.